The International Energy Agency was actually born out of the Arab oil embargo back in the 1970s, and it was set up really to deal with situations like we are currently seeing, which is an interruption to energy supply that imperils its membership. So this is Western democracies and their allies. Australia joined, the IEA was set up in 1974, Australia joined it in 1979. And one of the key components is that they ask their members to hold enough energy reserves that they have the ability to help mitigate if there is a supply shock. They recommend each member hold 90 days worth of fuel supplies. Australia is the only known country that doesn't regularly meet that standard. Part of the Australian argument, though, is that Australia is a major exporter of energy because we send a lot of coal overseas, we send a lot of natural gas overseas, but we also importantly do import a lot of diesel, petrol, aviation fuel. And the concern about the moment is that we don't have adequate supplies here if this continues into the future. The government talks about Australia having secure supplies, contracts in place until May, and that there is no shortage of oil, of fuel coming into Australia at the moment. But of course, the concern is that it might continue, and that's why we're in this predicament. But the IEA is there to protect its members' interests, and that's why we are seeing this announcement, which is about them working together.
So how will this announcement impact here in Australia then, if we don't have the reserves that are the requirements?
So the government says that they are currently looking at what is being requested. So this is a 400 million barrel, release from the IEA membership. This is a massive number. It's more than double the last big release, which was back in 2022. In the aftermath of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. That was about 182 million barrels. So this is a big number. The issue at the moment for the markets is that we don't know the pace at which this oil will be released. When will we actually see it start to flow into the market? And although it might offset the interruption to supply that we have seen so far because of the blockade, the effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. This will offset what we have seen so far. But again, the question becomes, how long will this continue? And the capacity of the membership to continue to feed into the market in the longer term. So they are asking their members to release. The Australian government says it's voluntary. They will look at it. Importantly, the Australian government says that this will not be about Australia sending fuel offshore. Instead, it will be about releasing it into the domestic market, which will also put downward pressure on Australian prices.
And so just on the oil price itself, what has the reaction in international markets been to this announcement by the IEA?
Yeah, well, if the IEA was hoping that the size of this announcement would be enough to put downward pressure on the oil price, I think they've been sadly disappointed. The Brent crude price, this is the international benchmark for oil, is up at around $93 a barrel. I've been watching it throughout the morning. It's actually been creeping upwards. I think it's in part because we were expecting an announcement from the IEA. And I think although the number might sound big, the fact that we didn't have all the associated details at the time of release is concerning people. And also the markets are also trying to assess, obviously, what's actually happening on the ground. And at the moment, there is no indication that actually the Strait of Hormuz is any closer to being opened, despite the commentary from Donald Trump suggesting he believes that shipping companies should start to move through that strait. We heard from the German foreign minister suggesting there's no way that it's anywhere close to being open. There are these reports of mining operations by the Iranian forces. Iran has been very clear that any ships associated with America, Israel, or any of their allies will be targeted, and we've had these 3 ships actually hit. So the situation on the ground does not suggest that this is anywhere near being solved. And even if we do see releases of oil from those emergency reserves, if there is no sign that the Strait of Hormuz is open and that normal production is returning, I think we're just going to see upwards pressure on that oil price.